Okay, let's just dive right in. We all want to get better and faster when we're testing web apps, right? But what if the secret to speeding up isn't about fancier tools or some crazy new payload? What if it's all about a simple 10-minute map you create before you even start poking around? Well, in this explainer, that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
I love this quote from the source material because, man, we have all been there. You jump into a new app, you feel confident, you think, I'll figure this out as I go. You poke around a bit, maybe find something small, and you feel like you're being super efficient. But that's the trap, isn't it? That feeling often leads you down a rabbit hole, and suddenly hours are gone, all because you missed the big picture from the start.
And this really boils it all down to a simple choice. Are you a bug hunter or are you a map maker? The hunter just runs into the forest, hoping to stumble upon something. But the map maker? They take just a few minutes to understand the terrain first. And the whole argument here is that being a map maker is what makes you a truly deadly hunter.
So let's talk about that feeling, that rush to be efficient. Why does it so often blow up in our faces? This is what our source calls the efficiency lie, this idea that skipping the planning and reconnaissance phase is somehow going to save you time. It almost never does.
And this is the absolute heart of the problem. We look at an app and we see a collection of things to attack. A search box here, a login form there. It's like treating a city as just a random collection of buildings. You miss the whole point. The real power, the real vulnerabilities, they lie in understanding the system. The roads connecting everything, the different roles people have, how data flows, and where the lines of trust are drawn.
And here's the payoff. Get this. This isn't just some abstract theory. Taking just 10 minutes to sketch out a basic structural map can literally save you close to an hour of wasted time on a single practice app. That's a massive, massive return on your investment. It's the difference between randomly shaking doorknobs and having a key to the building. You know, to really understand why this mapping thing works so well, it helps to look at what happens when we don't do it. The source material lays out some classic mistakes that pretty much all of us make when we're learning. Let's dig into a few of the biggest ones.
Oh man, here's a classic. You think what you see is what you get. You're clicking the buttons, filling out the forms, and you think you're interacting with the whole app, but you're missing what's happening underneath, all those silent API calls your browser is making. The source tells this painful story of a 45-minute detour trying to solve a lab, all because of some hidden JSON endpoints that a 90-second look at the network tab would have revealed instantly. Ouch! Here's another huge one, putting way too much faith in our automated tools. I love this metaphor. Your scanner is like a flashlight. It's awesome for shining a light in dark corners and finding things fast. But a flashlight can't tell you the layout of the building. It has no context. For that, you need a map. Tools are completely blind to human logic and what the developers intended for the app to do, and that's where the coolest bugs are always hiding.
You know, finding a bug is cool, but understanding why it was possible, that's the real skill. And that comes down to seeing the invisible lines in an app, its trust boundaries. Think about the line between a regular user and an admin, or what the app trusts the browser to do versus what the server enforces. Once you start seeing these boundaries, you stop just poking around and you start asking sharp, surgical questions. You're testing the app's assumptions, and that's a whole different game.
Okay, so we've seen the problems. Enough of the don'ts, let's get to the do's. It's time to build something. This is the simple, practical workflow for creating that map we've been talking about. And seriously, the workflow itself couldn't be simpler. We're not talking about creating some beautiful, complex architectural diagram. No, in 10 minutes, you just identify the user roles, watch the network traffic for a minute to spot the main endpoints, follow one piece of data through the system, highlight where trust levels change, and then, and this is the crucial part, you actually write it down.
So, what does your map actually need? It doesn't have to be perfect, just useful. Just focus on these essentials. Who are the main users? What are the top 5 most interesting API routes? Where does it seem to be storing data? What are a couple of key trust boundaries? Are there any obviously risky inputs? And then you make one guess, just one hypothesis about a potential bug. That's it. That's your guide. The long-term payoff here is, honestly, it's profound. This isn't just a technique you use on one lab. It's about building a mental model that lets you see the patterns in any application. You actually shift from just reacting to what's in front of you to predicting where the weaknesses will be.
Now, this is a fantastic little tool from the source material. It helps you apply this structural thinking before you even start a lab. So instead of picking one at random, you can be intentional. You ask, what skill do I want to build today? If you're working on the absolute fundamentals, DVWA is great. Want to get better at thinking about modern APIs and structure? Juice Shop is your go-to. Need to just quickly drill one specific concept over and over? Portswager Labs are perfect.
And that right there, that's the whole point. Anyone can follow a walkthrough and solve a challenge. That's a temporary win. But when you focus on understanding the structure of that challenge, you build a transferable skill that you can take to any real-world job. You're learning the why, not just the what.
So where do you go from here? Look, the best way to see how powerful this is to just do it. It's time to put it into practice.
If there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this right here. The flashy payloads and the clever little tricks are fun, but your real, sustainable growth in this field comes from disciplined habits. And making this structure-first approach a habit is probably one of the most powerful things you can do. It's the foundation for everything else.
And so that brings us right back to that first question. The next time you sit down in front of a new app, you've got the clock ticking, what's your first move? Are you going to start crafting a payload and hunting blindly? Or are you going to take those 10 minutes to draw the map that shows you exactly where the treasure is buried?